So super stoked to be joined by Oscar, Quim, and Stefan, who are FIFA, DAZN, and HBS involved with this project. I do want to start with just the big picture. This came together very quickly, very rapidly in January, I believe is when you guys came on board, right? So historically, this would be, you'd be involved with 35, 40, 50, 60 rights holders. You had one, right? So how did that kind of shape the conversations between the three of you? Did that make things easier, more challenging? I'm sure it was more challenging for you because you were in charge of...
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, no.
So Oscar, you want to kind of kick us off as far as who knew first and who made the first phone call where all three of you were involved?
Good to see you, Ken. Good to see everybody. To start, let's take a step back. This project was kicked off way before DAZN came on board. So Florin Mitu, who's our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient for today, started working with this with HBS many months, but under different scenarios. And then in December, the day of the draw, or the day before the draw, 6 months before,
More or less, yeah.
the deal was announced. So it changed the picture. And even though in December, Kim and I met 2 weeks
In New York.
in New York 1 month later, so we didn't have much idea what he had in mind. We knew what we wanted, what we needed to deliver, but we needed to completely change the scope of work, sort of, but also our mindset, because it was working with a different partner, which, by the way, was an amazing partner and put us in a great position to deliver what we need to deliver, but it was completely different to what we were used to.
So Kim, let's bring you in as far as that video is from you. So obviously you had probably the biggest challenge. I mean, I know Discovery and Eurosport have done this for the Olympics, but this was a different scale, obviously. So walk us through the global presence of DAZN and then how you kind of harmonized all of that within Miami and then also up at MetLife.
So look, I think the video at the end it was our output, but it was a joint work also with FIFA and HBS. But indeed, the challenge for DAZN was big, because at the end of the day was being the global broadcaster for one single event. And it was really challenging because it was just 5 months for the preparation, so in a format that was completely new. So we had to decide very quick which was our editorial approach, and then to merge with the facilities that both FIFA and HBS were putting in place, and trying to understand the synergies, the efficiencies that we could find together in order to deliver the best product possible. And this is what we made. So we started delivering. We wanted to have a level of editorialization and segmentation for every single game. So we started saying, okay, let's define according to the schedule, the teams that are playing, how do we want to approach this in every single market, considering obviously that we have core markets within the zone, and then we were having some agreements, co-productions in the US with TNT, in South America with 2DN. So in order to get this level of segmentation, editorial-wise, but also in terms of advertising, which is something that probably we can cover later. It was a big challenge, especially for the time frame.
Right. So obviously, you mentioned the advertising. I'm assuming that without the regionalized and localized advertising, monetarily, you might have probably just had an English feed, a Spanish feed, a French feed, and call it a day, correct?
Exactly. So it was almost 27 feeds for every single game in SDR and in HDR, which is another big challenge. And on this, huge credit to our operations team, Caroline Pires, Jamie Rice, so all the team that were working in the zone, our chief technology officer, Sandeep Tiku. So it was, in terms of partnering with NEP, setting a match center based in Florida where we were receiving all the feeds from the IBCC, but also from our markets where we were having the studios. And then up converting to HDR and SDR at the same time, because as you probably know, we had a free version and a paid version. The free version was with more advertising, the paid version was with less advertising. But however, we had a kind of segmentation also in terms of advertising. For every single feed, also embedding graphics advertising according to the market. As we know, for the US, you can have more advertising. It's different than the UK, so we had to have two different feeds, even having English. You had to have one for the US with the different commentators and another one for the global English or the remaining English-speaking markets, also in English, but with a different output, different studios, different talent. So at the end, it was 17 languages. It was so many feeds, as I was saying before, and trying to understand when a game was tier one for a market, so we put more resources behind, and it was different when it was another game in the same market. And building all together was really complex, yeah.
So for each feed in Miami, was there a control room and a master control and then commentary for each feed next to each other? Or?
So commentators, we had commentators based in the venue. So for the global English, we had commentators in every single stadium. But then, for instance, we had, depending on the stages of the tournament, so the group stages, we had all the commentators except global English back in their facilities. And then moving on to the knockouts, we started moving, according to the core markets, some teams on site. So it was a kind of hybrid. We had the commentators based all over the world.
I look at Stefan, and with the both of us are thinking on, this was our conversation every week with the DAZN, 20 engineers.
Did you say, are you sure you guys want to do this? Did that come up?
There were many variables on that side, but I think in the end the planning was, I mean, coming back to when the meeting started, I think the host broadcasting started earlier. We had a plan. The plan was probably already 80-90% fixed before DAZN came up, but then we obviously had to amend and adjust. But the base plan was there. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked. But still, the add-on of that DAZN brought was obviously came with a huge challenge. And congratulations to you guys what you did in the end. We are hopefully supported well, but there were so many variables. It was unbelievable.
Now, why the decision to have the compound in a parking lot outside in MetLife Stadium with 35 cabins, 36 cabins, as opposed to going to a convention center or the more traditional workflows?
I think multiple reasons: practicality, size, the availability of a compound. Those that haven't worked in the US, there are very big parking spaces around. So it was the practicality of going there. And not the need, because in the end the size was big, but it wasn't, it wasn't needed like an IBC if you now take it on the World Cup terms.
Let me put it this way: it was the size of an old World Cup, not the size of a 26 World Cup. So we didn't need a conference center.
Right.
So it's crazy. I think we met in Manchester, and you asked me what's the difference between 25 and 26. 25 was huge, but 26 is humongous. 25, we had the IBCC need, and that covered our needs. I think what allowed us to make this is, at FIFA Host Broadcasting Production, we're a service department. Our goal is always to put ourselves in the shoes of our partners. And in this case, while it was more complicated because we had less time, it was easier because we have a group leading on a single partner. And we just changed the mentality, and said, this is what they need. This is how we need to adjust our plans to deliver what they need.
So obviously the core production coverage is pretty buttoned down for these sort of matches with all the World Cups that are done between the men and the women. But so how did you kind of look to bring in new toys? The referee cam was probably one of the most highly viewed ones. What are some of the things that you took away from a production standpoint?
The ref cam, first of all, it's not a host broadcasting camera. It is a referee cam delivered and developed by our football technology and innovation at FIFA, which is a very important department at FIFA. So they deliver the resource for us. It's a resource for the referees that they made available for us, and it was I was really surprised by the welcoming of the people of the resource. Our team, our football technology and innovation team, was fantastic at delivering this, working with the providers that they deliver, and the images even the first image just hit air and went viral. You have a better perspective on that, on how you use it.
And we were pushing to get as much RefCam footage as possible, because indeed it was something that was really innovative. One of the positive things that we found is that we came up with a lot of demands in terms of having better access. So we started presenting our plan to the clubs. We went saying, okay, we want to put a microphone to the coach. We want to get more cameras inside the dressing room, pre-game, halftime, post-game, more interviews, the GoPro during the warm-up. So all these things that were in certain leagues, they have started having this type of content, but we wanted to bring this also in a FIFA tournament. And it's fair to say that they were really supportive, and we could use, again, the resources that they were planning. So they delivered this to get all this editorial addition that I think that at the end it was something that the audience also appreciated a lot.
So as far as the, you mentioned the ref cam, now did you get a feed of that for the whole game and you could take from it, or did the FIFA kind of someone give you clips or?
Yeah, so this was because, and I understand that, it was the first time ever, so they wanted to have kind of control of what they were putting on air. So this was fully controlled by FIFA.
To be honest, it's what I said earlier. It is not a host broadcaster camera, just like the feed that we get from the VAR room. It is not a broadcasting camera put on air. The ref cam, the referee view, it's not a host broadcasting camera. So we didn't make it available because it doesn't belong to us in our truck. We had a feed, but there were certain editorial and technical guidelines that we need to stick, and that's why we didn't pass it as an additional feed to our partner in this case.
No, and to add to that, I think that, as any new tool, you can really over-cram it into the feed, and there needs discussion, and there's moments, obviously there's sensitive natures on the referees on that side, there's innovative natures, there's when is the right moment to take it live, when is the right moment to show the right angle on the replay. So yeah, that takes some time to develop as well with the production teams. I think we did a relatively good job, and I think there's a really good basis for hopefully future events on that as well. But it showed that it was a really nice innovation.
I think that it's impressive when you see a referee running at the 89th minute at the same pace of a player, and you start recognizing, wow, it takes a lot of not only courage and decision making, but also a lot of physical demand in a person that it's developing and delivering constantly.
Sure. So when I went to visit you guys, or on July, whatever it was, 3rd, I was struck by one of the things you were really proud of was the editorial quality control area, as opposed to most QC at a lot of compounds and in these sort of facilities is focused on video quality, audio quality, but editorial, what's happening in terms of commentary and being said, isn't kind of a thing. So talk about the editorial quality control, and what should people take from that philosophy? I
think, I will be quick so others can talk as well. This is one of the core parts of the FIFA HPS philosophy. We have a very developed quality control process, not only on the editorial side, but also on the video side and audio side, and Stefan can speak about that. But these guys are the guys that are constantly there delivering what we need to deliver for our partners under our guidelines. It's my favorite place to be because I get to be seated in a QC room and watching all the games and just all the angles. And when I'm home, my wife is like, what happens? Like, I don't have the other cameras. I'm like, yeah, you're not in that room anymore. So it is part of the philosophy. I think we had people with amazing football knowledge, like Paul Quim, that is here in the audience, Ricky Van Steeden, doing that editorial. And you can speak more about that and also how it affected you or benefited you.
I think it adds to the consistency to the product in the end, and I mean, coming to the challenges of the US, but we needed 12. Well, we had 11 production teams, and we had a parallel event happening in the US at the same time as well. By the way, it was the Gold Cup, so even more production teams were involved, and to get the sort of editorial quality and consistency, out of those teams, which are not just from Europe, those teams. They really are now global. They all do a really good job, but if you want to get consistency, you need that element, so that in the end, hopefully the client is also, sees that. There's always moments, some things are better and worse, but generally speaking, you hit quite a good level of consistency by doing that editorial quality control.
Yeah, from a DAZN perspective, it was more, merging the FIFA, or let's say this way, HBS ecosystem with our needs. So making sure that the audio quality also was embedded correctly through our network, and despite where the commentators were based, or even having our feeds from our markets. So the sync was really important, the latency, and then all the additional feeds that we have presented earlier this morning with TVU, all these additional feeds that we were receiving. We had at the Stockley Park, thanks to IMG, which was another partner that was in this project, because we were producing the global English feed from the UK just for the group stages, but that place was also our hub in terms of all the delivery of content, apart from the match center that we had in Florida. So at the end, it was trying to pull everything together and to make it work. So was not easy, obviously. Was really challenging, especially in terms of managing all those feeds, managing the weather delay, which was something really challenging also. But at the end, we made it, and we are very proud of it.
So let's talk about the weather delays, because obviously that may be something that may happen next year, possibly. So, Kim, how did you guys prepare for that? Those, we had some seriously long delays. So what did that mean for your editorial team, and how did you kind of prepare for those, or did you just vamp for an hour or so?
Look, the first time that Oscar mentioned, hey, are you ready for the weather delay? You understand the protocol? You know that in the US it's different, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, tell me. So when I started understanding this, I said, okay, let's see, maybe it can happen once, twice, but all of a sudden it was every single day a weather delay. It was one game, Chelsea's game, 4 hours. And it was almost at the end of the game, but we were delaying 4 hours. And we were struggling also, because in terms of managing all the feeds, again, from Match Center, we had a limited capacity of having all these feeds. So we had a protocol also when going back from HDR, going to the studios. So it was a protocol to follow, but we were, depending on, okay, if it's another lightning, we need to delay another half an hour. So also to sync with all the commentators, to inform all the studios, to say, hey, half an hour more. So all this thing was not easy to manage. At the same time, we were having one single running order for all the markets. So we had a kind of, we name it voice of God, who was at the IBCC, making all the call-outs of all the editorial mentions, all the advertising graphics insertions at the same time for all the markets, for all the different feeds. So all the commentators received clear instructions at the same time, and we could include all the advertising and all the editorial call-outs at the same time. So it was a kind of coordination at a global scale that we had never done before, and I think that we learned a lot from this.
I worked 10 years in the US market before coming to FIFA, and weather delays are part of the nature of the US market. Just the NFL had 2 weather delays in the first week, the open match in Philly and then the game in Jacksonville. So I think what we need to understand, our business is important and crucial for us. The most important thing is the safety of the people in the stadium and the players and everybody participating around the game. That's simple as that. Then, thanks to the experience that we have had before, and we told Kim, when there's a weather delay, there's nothing more important or any sort of delay than constant communication. That's what we strive for, and that's what we are always striving for. Is we need to keep them updated by the minute and saying, this is what is going to happen, this is what is going to happen. Let's agree on restart time with our competitions team and keep them on the loop. So we can avoid it. There might be competitions where we have one or none, but there might be more like as this year.
Now, you mentioned in March, and also when I saw you in December over dinner in New York, and you mentioned the scale of this event compared to the Confederations Cup, which is always the tune-up, that this was not a tune-up, this was a massive effort. But what did you take away from this experience as far as for next year? I know there's some testing and trialing of the remote EVS and remote graphics, but maybe talk about what's the ripple effect, things learned here that will be applied next year?
I told you, Ken, this was not a test. It was a real event that we need to deliver to the audience and a historic first that we will remember in 50 years that we were part of. We learned a lot on the technical side, and Stefan can make reference to that from our FIFA side, is that we reinforce the concept that 26 is a tournament that will demand the most of us. I mean, the biggest effort from us. It's 27 days until the first day with no games. So this time was 14 and we were exhausted. So the man aspect of the people, the human aspect of our crew is going to be crucial. We need to make sure that we have that side protected.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a test event, but equally there was no better test for us for next year, because the sheer learning from the infrastructure on site, the way that the US operates. I mean, we had about 2,500 people on the ground. Next year there's 4,500. So scaling up, but even just getting to 4,500 people, we need to do these steps as well to get to those people. The weather conditions, the distances. I mean, the distances among. So really, you focus on is the plan right for 2020, 26 on that side. So many learnings, many great people, and a big shout out, thanks to all the vendors and everybody else that was involved on this and the people, because we'll need all of them next year as well, and even more.
And I know we're out of time, but this was the first time that in a FIFA event we had a halftime show with Global Cities, and that was an amazing initiative. More than 100 million are going to really good initiatives and causes, and it was delivered seamlessly. It was challenging, but it was delivered seamlessly. So that was another learning for us as well.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to talking about the 26th World Cup next year. I'm sure it'll be at least 1 or 2 sessions on here. So thanks guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Heather, back to you.